Hello and welcome students. This is a video lecture on the entire Unit 2 of the paper English Syntax and Semantics. In this video lecture, we'll see the phrases and clauses in English, the phrase structure rule, and the tree diagram for phrases and sentences. In this video lecture, we'll first look up at what phrases are, and then we'll briefly talk about phrase structure rule or PS rule. Then we'll move ahead to individually and sequentially look at the structure of different phrases: noun phrase, verb phrase, adjective phrase, adverb phrase, prepositional phrase, and then clauses in English. And then we'll finally move on to analyze a sentence using tree diagram and phrase structure rules. So first, let's begin by defining phrases. So phrases are made up of group of words that come together to modify the meaning of head word. Now, we have come across these words head word and modifier in the previous video lecture. In that, I have explained it. Still, using these examples here, I'll tell you that in this example, the blue sky, the head word is sky, and blue is something that is modifying the meaning of sky or adding something more to the meaning of sky. It is specifically telling you that the sky which I am talking about is blue. So the sky referred to here is the blue sky. So sky is the head word and blue is the modifier. Now in a phrase, the head word decides the syntactic category of the phrase. So since sky is a noun, that's why this phrase is a noun phrase. In a phrase, the obligatory element is a head word. In many sentences, a single word can act as a phrase and without any modifier. Modifiers are optional elements of a sentence. Now let's see this other example on the table. So this word on is a preposition, and this tells you that it is a prepositional phrase. And inside the prepositional phrase, we have the noun phrase the table, where the is determiner and table is noun. So as we move further ahead, we'll look at the structure of different phrases. As here you saw that in a prepositional phrase we have a noun phrase. Similarly, in different phrases we'll look at the structure of those phrases as to what we can include in that phrase and what cannot exist in that phrase. So let's now see what phrase structure rule is. Phrase structure rule is basically a rewrite rule. So using the structure or individual structure of different phrases, it lists down the whole structure of the sentence. So it follows a stepwise procedure to show the bigger constituent of the sentence on the right side of the on the left side of the arrow, and then it shows the sub constituents or the sub units of that particular constituent in a sentence. So A here, as I have shown you the form, so A, if you see here, so this A is further divided into B and C. So here you can add a plus sign or you can just give some space. So if we talk about phrase structure rule for a sentence, so a sentence has noun phrase and verb phrase. Without a noun phrase and verb phrase, it cannot be called a sentence. So sentence is the bigger unit, which is on the left side of the arrow, and it is divided into the smaller units or the sub constituents, noun phrase and verb phrase. And then we'll bring noun phrase to the left of the arrow, and then we'll break down noun phrase into its constituents, and then we'll bring down verb phrase to the left of the arrow, and in the third step we'll break down the verb phrase into its constituent. Similarly, we'll keep on dividing the phrases into its constituent till we reach at the level of words. So now let's look up the structure of different phrases. So these are the different phrase structures in English. We have noun phrase, verb phrase, adjective phrase, adverb phrase, and prepositional phrase. So these rules or this structure is a general one, and there can be some more additions or exceptions. So basically these are the general ones. So in this we can see each individually. So first we'll begin with noun phrase. So in a noun phrase, obviously the obligatory element is the head word, which will be a noun. So the word in blue, the letter in blue, N, it shows noun, and that is the most important element and it is necessary. And the other elements are written inside brackets. These bracket tells you that these elements are optional. So in a noun phrase, there may or may not be a determiner, may or may not be a prepositional phrase, and may or may not be a adjective phrase. So in a noun phrase, you can have more than one adjective phrase. That's why we have added this plus sign here. Similarly, you can have more than one prepositional phrase. So this plus sign tells you that there can be more than one phrases. Now in the verb phrase, we have the obligatory element verb, and in that before a verb you can have more than one adverb phrases. After a verb you can have two noun phrases, then you can have more adverb phrases, and then more prepositional phrases and more adverb phrases. So this kind of structure can be seen. So some sentences may have just a verb, some sentences may just have verb and a noun phrase, or verb and a prepositional phrase. So all these things in bracket are optional. So it can have a minimum structure or minimal structure of just a verb, or it can have a maximal structure having all these optional elements. So moving on to adjective phrase. So adjective phrase can have an optional adverb phrase preceding it and then an adjective. Similarly, an adverb phrase can have one more adverb phrase modifying the adverb. And then we have prepositional phrase. In prepositional phrase, we generally have a preposition and preposition followed by noun phrase. So these were the different phrase structure. So you need to memorize these in order to make the structure or list the phrase structure rules efficiently. Okay, so now let's identify the noun phrases in these sentences. So the first sentence is, the bus came late today. Here bus is obviously the noun here, and the bus. So the is the determiner and bus is the noun. So based on the general noun phrase rules, phrase structure rule for the noun phrase, we have the structure noun phrase, and in that we have determiner and the noun. So the bus, we have determiner and the noun. Now let's move to the second sentence. In the second sentence we have, Nidhi makes such beautiful paintings. So the words in red are the noun, and in this word, in this sentence, we have two noun phrases. So that's why we have here two different noun phrases and two different structure for the noun phrases. So the first noun phrase, which is the only word Nidhi, so for that you will define the structure as noun phrase, and then it is divided into just a noun, and that is Nidhi. And for the second one, which is such beautiful paintings, here the structure of noun phrase has a determiner which is such, and then an adjective phrase which is beautiful, and then the noun which is paintings. So the structure for this phrase will be noun phrase, which will be divided into determiner, and then adjective phrase, and then noun. So this was the structure for this sentence. Now we'll see the next sentence. In the next sentence we have three different noun phrases in the sentence. So here we have today is the day of my live performance. So here today is acting as a noun here, and in the first sentence the today word, the word today was acting as an adverb because it answered the question when, and adverbs add to the meaning of the verb. So it was telling you more about the time when. That's why today was the verb adverb there, and here it is acting as a noun. And generally noun phrases, anything that is before the verb comes under noun phrase, as we have seen that a sentence is divided into noun phrase and verb phrase, and the place from where the verb starts, all the other elements are counted as verb phrase there, and then inside that you divide it further. But all the elements before the verb are noun phrase, and including the verb after that are verb phrase. Okay, so let's see the structure of this first noun phrase. The first noun phrase here in this sentence is today. So for today the structure is simple, noun phrase, and there is only one word, and that is a noun. And in the second phrase we have this whole section after is, the day of my live performance. So here we have determiner the, and then we have the noun day, and then we have this prepositional phrase of my live performance. So this will act as a prepositional phrase, and it will be included in the noun phrase. Alright, so after this of my live performance, so now when we remove the preposition, we again have inside the preposition one more noun phrase. So here again we'll have this noun phrase my live performance. So for my live performance, this is the structure for my live performance. We have the noun phrase. It is divided into pronoun my, and then live, which is an adjective phrase because live is adjective, and then performance again a noun. So here instead of writing a noun here, you can mention pronoun. For pronoun you can write PR for pronoun. So after the noun you can mention pronoun. Instead of this N here you can mention PR. Okay, so in this we had three different noun phrases and three different structure for all the three. So based on the constituents you will make the structure of the phrase. You will write the structure using the phrase structure rule according to the constituents of the structure. And then in the next sentence, we'll see the next sentence now. So the next sentence is, these shoes are yours. Okay, so in this we have two different noun phrases, these shoes and then yours. So for the first one, these shoes, we have determiner these and then the noun shoes, and then yours, in that we directly have a noun which is actually a pronoun. So instead of noun you can write noun, and in case of tree diagram you will mention noun and then you will make a arrow here, and then below that you will mention PR for pronoun. Alright, so after that we have this last sentence here. I had cheese sandwiches. Okay, so this I had cheese sandwiches. In this you have again two noun phrases. First one, I is the noun phrase here, and then a noun phrase, it will divide into noun, and then again making one more, adding a dash, you can add pronoun, or simply you can just mention pronoun instead of noun. And then cheese sandwiches, so cheese is adjective, so adjective phrase, and then a noun, cheese sandwiches. So this is how you identify nouns and noun phrases in a sentence. Now let's move ahead. Okay, so now we'll move on to verb phrase. So in verb phrase, before we move on, it is important to know that in verb phrase there can be divisions, because there can be more than one verb in a given verb phrase, but there will be only a single main verb phrase. Okay, so the main verb is generally the lexical verb, and then we can have additional auxiliary verbs or modal verbs. So auxiliary verbs are generally the forms of be, have, and done. So the forms of be are is, been, is, being, and the forms of have is had, has been, have been, had been. So all of these are forms of have. And then do, the forms of do are do, does, did. So all of these are auxiliary verbs are helping verbs. And then main verb are lexical verb, which is generally a word defining some action. So lexical verb means proper words defining action. So okay, so first one here, I have taken different types of verb for the example. So first we have lexical verb. So she bought a beautiful dress. So verb phrases are easy, because where the place where the verb starts, all the rest of the elements after that, following that, will be included in the verb phrase. So in this first sentence, she bought a beautiful dress. So after bought, all the things are underlined. That means all of it is in verb phrase. So we have this verb, and then a beautiful dress is again a noun phrase, because here the head word is dress, and then beautiful is modifying the dress, and is the determiner. So verb and noun phrase. In the second sentence, again just after the verb broke, all the things will be under verb phrase. So broke down is a single verb, it is a phrasal verb. That's why we have two words here, but it will be divided as single verb. So we will divide it as we, and then on his way. So on is preposition, that's why we have prepositional phrase here. So it will, the structure of this verb phrase is verb phrase divided into verb, that is broke down, and prepositional phrase, that is on his way. Now moving on to the third sentence, you must read this novel. Now in this one you have one auxiliary verb. So this is a modal auxiliary verb. So here the verb phrase is divided into modal auxiliary verb, and then you have the main verb, and then you have the noun phrase. So modal auxiliary is must, the word must, and then the main verb is read, and then we have the noun phrase this novel. Now in the fourth sentence we have two auxiliary verbs. So we have may be typing the letters. So the verb phrase is may be typing. So here may be typing the letters. So here first we have may, which is a modal, and then may be an auxiliary, and then typing, the main verb. So this is modal, then auxiliary, then main verb, and then the noun phrase. So this was verb phrase, different structure for verb phrase. Alright, so we'll move ahead. Okay, so here we have adjective phrase, adverb phrase and prepositional phrase. We'll begin with adjective phrase. So as we know, adjectives are something that adds to the meaning of the noun or modifies the noun. So here in the first sentence, we have this section, really very talented. She is really very talented. So really very talented is adding something about she, which is a pronoun. Okay, so it is acting as an adjective phrase. Alright, and then in that adjective phrase we have this section, really very. So this really very is modifying the adjective talented. So really very is adverb phrase, because adverb is something which modifies the adjective or a verb or some other adverb. So we have this structure here. Adjective phrase is divided into the adverb phrase and the adjective. So we have this structure for the sentence, and now let's look the next sentence. Look at the next sentence. So the next sentence is, the test was surprisingly easy. So the section surprisingly easy is telling about the noun test. So again we have adjective easy and the adverb phrase surprisingly, which is telling you something about the adjective. So again it will follow the same structure, adjective phrase divided into adverb phrase and an adjective. Now the third sentence is a bit different, because here we have the adverb phrase following the adjective. So the adverb enough is following the adjective clever. So we may have different structure, but the structure that we have seen is the most general form that we find across several sentences, but there can be a slight difference in the sentence structure. Okay, so now let's move on to adverb phrase. So adverbs generally tell you or answer the questions when, where, why and how. So in the first sentence we can see this, he is studying in the library upstairs. So you can answer the question where, ask the question where and get the answer upstairs. So the adjective phrase upstairs is divided into adjective upstairs. So basically it is a rule to first write it as a phrase and then divide it into the constituent or the smaller unit. Even though it is the single word, still you have to write it in this form. Okay, and then we have the second sentence here, the winner will be announced fairly soon. So again it will answer your question when, fairly soon. So fairly soon is an adverb phrase. So here soon is an adverb, it is telling you about the time, and fairly is also an adverb. So here we have this structure, adverb phrase, it will be broken down into adverb phrase and an adverb. And again this fairly, for this also you can again write here adverb phrase and then it is broken down into adverb. Okay, so here you can make actually two structures. So one structure is for the whole fairly soon, and then again a structure for just the word fairly. Okay, so this was adjective phrase. Now let's see prepositional phrase. So here we have the sentence, they got gifts for almost everyone from Paris. Okay, so here prepositional phrases, wherever you find a prepositional phrase, preposition, there you have a prepositional phrase. So here we have for almost everyone, this is one prepositional phrase, and then from Paris, this is another prepositional phrase. So in a prepositional phrase we have a preposition and a noun phrase. So here we have the preposition for in the first one, and almost everyone is a noun phrase, and then we have from Paris. Okay, so from is the preposition, and Paris is the noun phrase. Alright, so this was all. We have covered up all the phrases here, and now we'll move forward to clauses. Alright, so now we have reached the section on clauses. So clauses are the unit of language which are larger than a phrase. Okay, and a clause generally has a noun phrase and a verb phrase, which is also true for a sentence. A sentence too has a noun phrase and a verb phrase, but the clauses may not be able to stand on its own. Okay, but if a clause can stand on its own, then it is a sentence. So then that clause can be considered as a sentence. And in English we have three main types of clauses: noun clause, adjective clause, and adverb clause. So noun clause are those which answer the question who or what. For example, we have John asked if Mary was coming to the cinema. So this word in red, if, and in the other examples also, if, who, and that. These are complementizers or markers which introduce the clause in the larger sentence. Okay, so we have the sentence John asked if Mary was coming to the cinema. Now if we remove this clause and put it up as a question like what did John ask? So in answer you can get this phrase as if Mary was coming to the cinema. So this is a noun clause. And in adjective clause it answers the question which. So if I ask which boy never comes to the class, so you can tell the boy who comes from the rich family. So this is an adjective clause. And in adverb clause it generally answers the question why, when, and how. So here we have the sentence teacher announced that she will check the homework tomorrow. So I may ask when will the teacher check the homework? Okay, so here the answer will be she will check the homework tomorrow. So it is answering the question when. So it is an adverb clause. Okay, so now as we know all the phrases and all the clauses, we can move ahead to looking up all of these or identifying these in a sentence. So we have come to the final slide now. In this, we'll analyze a sentence using the tree diagram, and we'll represent the sentence using the phrase structure rule. So here we have the tree diagram for this sentence. She is an amazingly talented singer from India. So here we have tree diagram. In tree diagram, first you write S. S represents sentence, and then sentence is divided into noun phrase and verb phrase. Then we go down on dividing these phrases into their sub-constituents, and then noun phrase here is she. Okay, and she is what? A noun, and if we specify it's pronoun. Okay, and then we have here verb phrase. So verb phrase is what I told you. After the verb, all the other elements in the sentence will be considered as the verb phrase. Okay, so verb phrase, and in the verb phrase we have the verb is. So we have verb, and then we have the noun phrase an amazingly talented singer. So we write here noun phrase, and then we have from India. So from is preposition, so it is a prepositional phrase. Okay, so from India is a prepositional phrase. Then we move to the next step. So verb is all so there's no further division in the verb, so we'll leave it as it is. And then in the next step we'll divide the noun phrase. So noun phrase will be divided into the determiner. So the noun phrase here is an amazingly talented singer. Okay, so an is the determiner. All right, and then amazingly talented, it is telling you about the singer, which is noun, so it is an adjective phrase. And then we have the noun singer. Okay, after that we have the prepositional phrase from India. So here we have from, which is the preposition, and India, which is again a noun phrase. Now we will move to the next step. Now we will divide the adverb phrase. So adjective phrase. So adjective phrase is divided into adverb phrase and adjective. So adverb here is amazingly and talented is adjective. And then this noun phrase India is divided into noun, and then we'll just finally link it up to the word. And here adverb phrase also we'll write the phrase, we'll break the phrase into the adverb and then the words. In the final line we have the whole sentence, I mean all the words. So from sentence we have come down till the words. Okay, so it is important to maintain these levels that we have right here. So noun phrase and verb phrase go on a single level, so they will be written in a single line, and then these noun, verb, noun phrase and prepositional phrase, these in single line. So as you can see an order here, similarly you have to do for the other sentence, and finally the words of the sentence try to bring them down in a single line, and using the arrows or the straight lines connect it to the categories it belongs to. Similarly, in the phrase structure rule, instead of drawing a tree diagram, we just horizontally we have to write down the rules. So for the first, here if you see, for the first line you have this rule, S is equals to NP and VP. Then for NP, next as you went down to divide it, similarly here you will write down the rule for the next NP, which is pronoun. So you can make add another step here, noun and then pronoun, else you can directly write pronoun also, that will also be fine. Similarly now verb, as you saw here, verb was divided into verb, noun phrase and prepositional phrase. So likewise all those things that we have mentioned here, all those things will be put down in this format of the phrase structure rule, and then towards the end we'll come to the level of words. From the level of phrases we'll come to the level of words, and individual words will be linked with their categories, and it will be written in this manner. So this is phrase structure rule. Okay, so here one thing that you can do is, here we have 3 different noun phrases. Okay, so one is here, one is here, and one is here. So you can do it, what you can do is you can name this first one as noun phrase 1, this one as noun phrase 2, and this one as noun phrase 3, and then the constituents inside or within that phrase as using that same number, like noun phrase 1, so this noun under that will be noun 1 or pronoun 1. So it is noun phrase 2, so this will be determinate 2. So 2 will tell you that it is the part of the noun phrase 2. So you can number it, or else you can just directly do like I did without numbering it. But when you number it, you can keep a track of it properly, like you will not miss any phrases and you can do it correctly. So it is better to use the numbers, else it is also correct without the numbers. You just have to be conscious about mentioning all the things properly and correctly. So this was phrase structure rule, phrase structure tree, and the sentence here is represented using the phrase structure rule and phrase structure tree. So this was it for this video lecture. Thank you.